John, what do you and Yoko hope to achieve together? Because you seem to be concentrating an awful lot of effort these days on LPs together and on your own things together.
We hope to achieve peace, really. You know, that's what we're aiming at, and it's a big achievement, and we're just doing our best for it. You know?
Do you feel your week in Amsterdam, lying in bed, has achieved anything? Have you had any encouraging results?
Yeah, there was a lot. First of all, we made people laugh, and that's good. You know, I mean, John and Yoko are like the wind. You can't see it, but when it passes, the trees bend. You know, and that's what we do. And they had a lot of results, apart from us getting a nice film out of it, and probably an album. A lot of people wrote to us and sent word, and people from the States, all around the world. And just instances like some guy wrote and said, now, because of your event in Amsterdam, I'm not joining the RAF, and I'm growing my hair. Now, all we were saying there, symbolically, instead of kicking the shop window in, say, do something like grow your hair for peace. Like even the guy in the factory who's won't cut his hair. He's doing it for peace, whether he knows it or not. You know, he's protesting without. They have no model or no reason can they get him for having long hair. You know, about going in the cake and all that. You know, he can tie his hair up for work, etc., etc. So we say, grow your hair for peace, and stay in bed for peace. You know, do something like that can't be got, can't be smashed.
But do you feel that growing your hair and sort of lying in bed is a positive enough reaction? Don't you think it would be better if people went out and did something more positive?
That is a positive thing. You tell me.
Very positive. I mean, the fact that it stimulated other people to say that, like you said that, you know, this is the result of us doing it, you know, in other words, well, all right, let's do something positive for the piece, you know. Okay, so we started that, you see.
So you go out and do it. If we've inspired you to do something positive, we say we've done something positive, you know, you say, well, I can do better than that. Do it. That's the point. Anybody who's got an idea, top us, you know, and we'll keep the game going, and we'll try and top you, but we'll all want to see
competition for you, you know. That's what it is, like saying, well, all right, so they weren't doing so well, we can do better and better and better, you know, it goes better.
A lot of people also feel that if everyone goes to bed and stays in bed for a week or a few days for peace, as a protest for peace, that the whole country will come to a standstill.
Well, wouldn't it be better than producing arms and bombs? Imagine if the American army stayed in bed for a week, and the Vietnamese army, or Nixon and Kosygin and Chairman Mao. Imagine it if the whole world stayed in bed. There'd be peace for a week, and they might get to feel what it was like. The tension would be released.
If there was enough trouble and there was obviously going to be a war, and you were asked to fight, John, would you fight?
I wouldn't.
For your country?
I wouldn't attack. No, I'd defend myself probably in the situation. But I wouldn't attack. You know, I'm a pacifist. No?
What do you want out of life most of all now, John?
Peace. Yeah, really, that's all I want.
If anything happened to you, how would you like people to remember you?
As the great peacenik.
That before your music.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This is CFNY-FM 102.1 Toronto, Canada. We'd like to thank the over 500 stations across North America that participated today in the Dream Network as part of a simultaneous tribute to the late John Lennon. And we now return to our regular programming. It's 10 minutes after 2 o'clock. I'm Ron Burchell. It's a hard act to follow. I welcome you to a new show today, 2 hours of jazz and assorted musical ideas. This is The Afternoon After. CFNY FM. From his new LP. The album is called Double Fantasy. Actually, that was from Walls and Bridges album, Number 9 Dream. Watching the Wheels came from Double Fantasy, and the title track from Imagine. Listen, I got to tell you, I was down to see the Persuasions on Friday night, and they sang Let It Be, and it was quite an emotional scene, really. The lead singer, when they finished it, just simply said, "Hey man, John Lennon ain't supposed to be gone." Well, he would have wanted us to carry on, so we will. Okay.
World today, Beatle fans, those who grew up with the musical idealism of John Lennon, were in mourning. Tens of thousands gathered in New York Central Park. Radio stations asked listeners to observe a period of silence. The murder of John Lennon had reminded an entire generation of its roots. The following reports trace the story since Lennon was shot outside his Central Park apartment building on Monday night.
He was shot 4 times, and there was no chance to save his life. As word of John Lennon's death shocked the world, New York City police questioned the suspect, 25-year-old Mark David Chapman, an unemployed security guard from Hawaii and former mental patient, whom authorities now say came to New York with the express purpose of killing Lennon. Charged with second-degree murder, Chapman is now under psychiatric observation. Hundreds, then thousands of John Lennon and Beatles fans converged on the murder scene. At first, stunned silence, then a John Lennon song. The vigil outside the building where John Lennon and Yoko Ono made their home lasted into the night. Overnight, the gates to Lennon's apartment building became a shrine. New York police had to put up barricades to hold the crowds back.
This is John Lawrence in London. Another of John Lennon's former partners, Paul McCartney, spent the day at an Oxford Street studio saying, "Work is the best tonic." Police were standing by along with reporters as McCartney finished.
What was your reaction to the death of John Lennon? I was very shocked, It's terrible news.
What were you recording today?
I was just listening to some stuff, I just didn't want to sit at home.
Why?
Look, I didn't feel like it.
What time did you hear the news?
This morning sometime. Very early? Yeah. Don't know, yeah? Drag, isn't it? Okay, cheers. Come on. Okay, guys.
The survivor of the most successful songwriting team in history also said, John will be remembered for his unique contribution to art, music, and world peace. Another former Beatle, George Harrison, was said to be in a state of shock at his secluded mansion in the English countryside. In London, as in record stores all over Europe, copies of Lennon's latest recording were in heavy demand. Fans said they wanted a last memento to add to their collections of the rebellious, angry young musician of the 60s. All over the world today, newspapers and radio and television programs gave special, sustained coverage to Lennon's death. From Madrid to Moscow, the murder was condemned, and with it, by implication, American society. London's New Standard editorialized, Lennon's meaningless murder is increasingly typical of New York and the United States in general, where the freedom to carry guns has brought forth monsters. In TV studios as well as the streets, individuals were angry and bitter.
His music will live forever, and because of this stupid piece of refuse that's done this to him, who might get away with it because that's the way the law is. Because I would be very adamant this man must be killed for me.
It's America's to blame. We should have got out of America a long time ago. It's a society like America that these things can happen. Very shocked.
I think it's disgusting. It could only happen in America, couldn't it?
In the words of another singer in another song, some came to sing, some came to pray, some came to keep the dark away. There were electrical problems and cold winds and snow, but the memory of John Lennon was strong, and the candle shone brightly in the night.
I don't know whether to cry or to laugh, because I still have what I always had of him. So, I don't know what to think.
I think they're here to remember a feeling, a spirit. They're a lot younger than the people of the 60s. They've heard of the 60s and they wanted to see some of it. And it's tragic that they had to see it in John's death.
It's a private moment. Private. That's all I can say.
It's a shame that somebody who advocated peace the way he did had to end the way he did. So.
There was no real reason to be there except to be there, to relive another time when John Lennon was alive, to hope that what he stood for in his life will be kept alive in other hearts and minds in his death. Len Grant, Global News, Toronto.
Come together over me. And this evening, that's exactly what millions of music fans around the world are doing. Joined in mourning the death of John Lennon, one of the most important musicians of our time. He was a person of boundless energy and seemingly unlimited talent. Along with Paul McCartney, Lennon was the real cornerstone of the group that, in the early 60s, began a musical evolution. The Beatles were a force that overwhelmed the world of rock and roll and affected the attitudes and style of a whole generation.
Ringo, Paul, George, John.
Their appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 was an event we still remember. Of Elvis Presley and the inspiration for everything in rock music that's come after them. John and Paul wrote most of the songs that sold more than 250 million records in all, records that continue to sell 11 years after the group broke up.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the audition.
The Beatles had done it with style and a sense of both humor and history, but by 1970 the group went through its last evolution. Despite their own lyrics, after the group broke up, the Lennons did begin trying to change the world. By then, they were inseparable, living in the United States and active in fighting for everything from women's rights to ending the war in Vietnam. It got them both in trouble, and when I first met them in 1972, they were fighting deportation from the country. The announced reason for the government action was John's obscure arrest in England in 1968 for the possession of marijuana. But John thought the government had other motives.
The other official reason is that I was bussed in England for pot. And the real reason is because I'm a peacenik.
Because they were so totally involved in social change, I managed to coax the Lennons out of retirement to do this benefit concert for the mentally retarded. It earned $160,000 for the cause. After 5 more years spent again in relative seclusion and enduring personal crisis, the Lennons re-emerged recently. John even did a radio interview to talk about himself and his philosophy.
We're either going to live or we're going to die. If we're dead, we'll have to deal with that. If we're alive, we've got to deal with being alive.
I'm a dreamer.